In this video, I go through the best and most understandable meditations from Marcus Aurelius' book, Meditations. I feel that these can really help people to take control of their minds rather than being controlled by them. Additionally, there are valuable life lessons throughout this whole book. This is the second part of the best meditations, so if you haven't watched the first one, then you should probably go and watch that now. I'll put it top right, and then come back here and watch the rest of this. Lastly, before I start, I'm going to be looking down and reading all the meditations word for word, because otherwise it wouldn't be Marcus Aurelius' own words. Right, so here's the first one, carrying on from the last video. Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice, and on freeing yourself from all other distractions. Yes, you can. If you do everything as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life, and stop being aimless, stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you, stop being hypocritical, self-centered, irritable, you see how few things you have to do to live a satisfying and reverent life. If you can manage this, that's all even the gods can ask of you. The next one. Yes, keep on degrading yourself, soul, but soon your chance at dignity will be gone. Everyone gets one life. Yours is almost used up, and instead of treating yourself with respect, you have entrusted your own happiness to the souls of others. Now, that's a really big one to think of. Just live your life how you want to live it. Don't let other people's thoughts and beliefs change yours. Here's some great advice about living in the now. Even if you're going to live 3,000 more years, or 10 times that, remember, you cannot lose another life than the one you're living now, or live another one than the one you're losing. The longest amounts to the same as the shortest. The present is the same for everyone. Its loss is the same for everyone, and it should be clear that a brief instant is all that is lost, for you can't lose either the past or the future. How could you lose what you don't have? Remember two things: that everything has always been the same, and keeps recurring. And it makes no difference whether you see the same things recur in 100 years or 200 years, or an infinite period. Number 2. That the longest lived, and those who will die soonest, lose the same thing. The present is all that they can give up, since that is all you have. And what you do not have, you cannot lose. The next one. Now here's some great advice about how to overcome obstacles. Our inward power, when it obeys nature, reacts to events by accommodating itself to what it faces, to what is possible. It needs no specific material. It pursues its own aims as circumstances allow. It turns obstacles into fuel, as a fire overwhelms what would have quenched the lamp. What's thrown on top of the conflagration is absorbed, consumed by it, and makes it burn still higher. The next one, this is a really big one. People tried to get away from it all, to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. You always wish that you could too, which is idiotic. You can get away from it anytime you like, by going within. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul, especially if you have other things to rely on. An instant recollection, and there it is, complete tranquility. And by tranquility, I mean a kind of harmony. So keep getting away from it all like that. Renew yourself, but keep it brief and basic. A quick visit should be enough to ward off all agitation and send you back ready to face what awaits you. What's there to complain about? People's behaviour? But take into consideration that rational beings exist for one another, that doing what's right sometimes requires patience, that no one does the wrong thing deliberately, and the number of people who have feuded and envied and hated, and fought and died and been buried. And keep your mouth shut. Or are you complaining about the things the world assigns you? But consider the two options, providence or atoms, and all the arguments for seeing the world as a city. Or is it your body? Keep in mind that when the mind detaches itself and realises its own nature, it no longer has anything to do with ordinary life, the rough and the smooth, either one. And remember all you've been taught and accepted about pain and pleasure. Or is it your reputation that's bothering you? But look at how soon we're all forgotten. The abyss of endless time that swallows it all, the emptiness of all those applauding hands, the people who praise us, how capricious they are, how arbitrary, and the tiny region in which it all takes place, The whole earth a point in space, and most of it uninhabited. How many people there will be to admire you, and who they are. So keep this refuge in mind, the back roads of yourself. Above all, no strain and no stress. Be straightforward, look at things like a man, like a human being, like a citizen, like a mortal. And among the things you turn to, these two. Number 1, that things have no hold on the soul. They stand there unmoving, outside it. Disturbance comes only from within, from our own perceptions. Number 2, that everything you see will soon alter and cease to exist. Think of how many changes you've already seen. The world is nothing but change. Our life is only perception. That's another big one I want to touch on, that everything is perception. Everything on earth is how you perceive it. So I've said this a few times. There's many other examples I could give, but one is, one person could be called pretty, let's say, and take it as a compliment and be like, oh, thank you. Another one could take it as a bad thing and feel like you're being sarcastic or that you're being toxically masculine. There's so many things that someone could take it, and it isn't anything to do with the way you've said anything. Everything is all how other people perceive it, and the same with yourself. You could be called ugly, let's say, on the other hand, and you could just laugh it off and take it as a joke and not care. Or you could sit and cry about it to yourself all night and keep telling yourself you're ugly, and then it defines you and it becomes a part of your identity. Now the next one, here's something very true. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. So again, this is literally linked into the last one. That it's very important to understand that Stoicism teaches us that our emotions aren't controlled by external events or people's actions, as I said. It's our interpretation and judgments that shape our responses. So when someone speaks to us, it's not their words, but our interpretations that affect us. We have the power to choose how we react, whether to let their words upset us or not. Now, the next one. Here's a great little quote about life. Not to live as if you had endless years ahead of you. Death overshadows you. While you're alive and able, be good. Again, Stoicism is all about just being good, being a good person. So that's talking about that. That's the one thing you can do if you can't do anything else, is be good and kind. The next one is, here's some great advice about not caring about what others say. The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. Is this fair? Is this the right thing to do? Not to be distracted by their darkness. To run straight for the finish line, unswerving. So this is about, it says, not to be distracted by their darkness. So a lot of the time emotions really radiate. Is that right? Yeah, a lot of emotions really radiate. So if one person's negative, they make everyone else negative. If one person's positive, they can make everyone else positive. So this is what it's saying, is don't let their darkness become the same as you. Just run for the finish line, unswerving. So just pretty much go on with your own tasks and just avoid them. Don't think about anything to do with them. The next one. You've seen that, now look at this. Don't be disturbed. Uncomplicate yourself. Someone has done wrong to himself. Something happens to you. Good. It was meant for you by nature, woven into the pattern from the beginning. Life is short, that's all there is to say. Get what you can from the present, thoughtfully, justly, unrestrained moderation. Another one about just, like, if someone does you wrong, that's just doing themselves wrong, because actually I've heard something to do with psychology with this, that if you call someone else something bad, you're calling it yourself. I can't remember the whole logic behind it, but anyway, that's what I've heard. I'll have to do a bit of more research on it. Here's the next one. Here's some great advice about not letting things worry you, because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, and it's all forgotten. Do what's right for you. The age of Vespasian, for example. People doing the exact same things, marrying, raising children, getting sick, dying, waging war, throwing parties, doing business, farming, flattering, boasting, distrusting, plotting, hoping others will die, complaining about their own lives, falling in love, putting away money, seeking high office and power. And that life they led is nowhere to be found. Or the age of Trajan, the exact same things, and that life too, gone. Survey the records of other eras, and see how many others gave their all and soon died and decomposed into the elements that formed them. But most of all, run through the list of those you knew yourself. those who worked in vain, who failed to do what they should have remained fixed on and found satisfaction in. A key point to bear in mind. The value of attentiveness varies in proportion to its object. You're better off not giving the small things more time than they deserve. Good one to just think about as well. The next one. Here's some great advice about not letting things harm you. Nothing that goes on in anyone else's mind can harm you, nor can the shifts and changes in the world around you. Then where is harm to be found? In your capacity to see it. Stop doing that and everything will be fine. Let the part of you that makes that judgment keep quiet, even if the body it's attached to is stabbed or burnt or stinking with pus or consumed by cancer. Or to put it another way, it needs to realise that what happens to everyone, bad and good alike, is neither good nor bad. That what happens in every life, lived naturally or not, is neither natural nor unnatural. Now the next one, this is just some great advice that everyone needs to hear. Suppose that a god announced that you were going to die tomorrow, or the day after. Unless you were a complete coward, you wouldn't kick up a fuss about which day it was. What difference could it make? Now recognise that the difference between years from now and tomorrow is just as small. So this is kind of true just anyway, just in a sense that you could die tomorrow or the day after. You don't know when you are, so you need to live your life like that. I know people say that, but you really need to think about that. Like if you was given 2 days to live, would you be working your job? Now, if you wouldn't, you need to start working today to make your life so that you can do what you would want to be doing if you had 2 days to live. Now the next one. Here's some of the best advice in the book, but really listen to what's being said. Actually listen very well. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the colour of your thoughts. Colour it with a run of thoughts like these. Anywhere you can lead your life, you can lead a good one. Lives are led at court, then good ones can be. Things gravitate toward what they were intended for. What things gravitate toward is their goal. A thing's goal is what benefits it. It's good. A rational being's good is unselfishness, what we were born for. That's nothing new. Remember, lower things for the sake of higher ones, and higher ones for one another. Things that have consciousness are higher than those that don't, and those with the logos still higher. So I don't understand the whole of that because it's talking in like how they used to talk 1,800 years ago. The logos are really just like his philosophical morals, in a way. You can search it up and find all his exact logos if you want to. The next one. In a sense, people are our proper occupation. Our job is to do them good and put up with them. But when they obstruct our proper tasks, they become irrelevant to us, like sun, wind, animals. Our actions may be impeded by them, but there can be no impeding our intentions or our dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes and obstacles to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So it's actually really good, but it's hard to understand, so I'm going to explain it further. So this means that the obstacles, the impediments we encounter actually push us forward, so advances action. So impediment to action. When you face a challenge, an impediment, that makes it hard to act, it can feel like a roadblock. Advances action. However, dealing with that challenge often requires finding new ways to move forward, which can lead to progress and innovation. Thus, the whole phrase implies that encountering obstacles can drive progress and action by forcing us to address and overcome these obstacles, leading to growth and advancement. Now here's the next one. Here's something to really take into account. The best revenge is to not be like that. So I've made a lot of short film on this. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and I make short films on YouTube, but the comments were people like not really understanding. But what it's pretty much saying is revenge shouldn't be of the same sort or you're just as bad. You do get taught at school and it's a bit weird. Like if someone punches you, obviously going to want to punch them back, but there's obviously different ways to go about it. If someone punches you and you punch them back, they're probably not going to do it again, whereas if you keep letting them, then they'll probably keep punching you. So it's kind of a hard one. But then at the same time, if you do, obviously, if someone's arguing with you and you argue back, then it's just going to fuel the fire, as they say it. And so the best revenge is to not be like the person that's done whatever they've done to you, because then they're the bad person and you're still a good person. Now the next one, not to assume it's impossible because you find it hard, but to recognise that if it's humanly possible, you can do it too. That's a fact. A lot of people have to try and make up some excuse, or they're bad people, or they're lucky, just to make themselves feel better. But if someone else can do it, you can actually do it as well. Other than a few physical problems, like you're obviously not going to be able to run as quick as Bolt if you're in a wheelchair and your legs don't work. But again, it's like true for quite a lot of things. Like, if someone else is a millionaire, why can't you be a millionaire? You've just got to find your own way to do it. Now here is the next one, some very true advice. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Things can't shape our decisions by themselves. Some of the main teachings of Stoicism is that our emotions and reactions aren't dictated by external events, as I said earlier, or other people's actions. Instead, it's our own interpretations and judgments of these events that shape our emotional response. So I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier, but again, if someone says something to us, it's not their words that determine how we feel, it's how we take their words and choose to make the emotions about what they've said. Now the next one, a very good quote. What injures the hive injures the bees. So this really just embodies Stoic philosophy's idea of interconnectedness. It suggests that our actions affect not only ourselves but also the community. Like bees in a hive, our well-being is intertwined with the collective welfare. Thus, harming others ultimately harms us too. And again, to further explain this, if you harm someone else, it does harm you just as bad because it's on your conscience. So, yeah, you harm yourself just as bad mentally. Same with if you harm someone physically, you harm yourself mentally. Next one. Here's some great advice on understanding and responding to harm from others. When people injure you, ask yourself what good or harm they thought would come of it. If you understand that, you'll feel sympathy rather than outrage or anger. Your sense of good and evil may be the same as theirs, or near it, in which case you have to excuse them, or your sense of good and evil may differ from theirs, in which case they're misguided and deserve your compassion. Is that so hard? Again, a very good one. Go back and watch that again to fully understand it. The next one. Here's a great quote about how to not get overwhelmed and how to get things done. Very short and sweet, but correct. Stick to what's in front of you. Idea, action, utterance. All about living in the now. If you're constantly thinking about the future, good point. Say you want a million subscribers. If you're thinking about 1 million subscribers, it's going to be miles away when you first start, and you're going to be overwhelmed and probably give up. Whereas instead, if you think about the little wins, the next subscriber, or completely forget about the goals and think about your actions, like it said, idea, action, utterance. If you think about the action, upload everyday short form or upload 3 times a week long form, and there you go. The next one is, here's a great quote about doing things now and not delaying, so it links into the last one again. This is what you deserve. You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow. Now that is for everything. You can change that around and say, this is what you deserve. You could have done what you needed to do today, but now you've got to do it tomorrow. So it's putting off what you could have done now and further pushing back your goals and what you want to achieve. So this channel is all about self-improvement, health, wealth, philosophy and psychology. So if you're interested in becoming better, then you should subscribe. An important part of self-improvement is wealth. So you should watch my latest video on that, how to get rich, 4,000-year-old wealth strategies, the richest man in Babylon. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.